Om Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Krishnaya Namaha. Om Dhanvantaraya Namaha. Om Saraswate Namaha. All right, a special invocation to the goddess of food because we are starting Ahara today. We are starting AC 102, which is, Agni and Ayurvedic nutrition part 1. So the goddess of Ahar, the goddess of food, is Annapurna Devi, who's an aspect of Shiva's wife, also called Parvati, and Mother Nature is her aspect. So she gives us food. So without her, we wouldn't eat. So please bless us, Annapurna, the aspect of Parvati, Shivani, wife of Shiva, so we can understand your 3 gunas, your 3 shaktis today. All right, let's move on. So since today is your first class in AC 102, I kind of very quickly want to go through the objectives. And what I'm doing today is I'm going to teach you my style. And my style is a kind of introduce a lot of concepts at once, and I let you kind of chew them over, and then we discuss them again in the next class, in a couple of weeks, they all become clear. So normally I usually won't pick up one thing and stick to it. So I will flit a little bit from topic to topic, but there's a method to my madness. So, don't get scared or freaked out. There's a method here to my madness. I've been doing this a long time. All right, let's move on. So the objectives are, let me annotate this. Okay, so I'm pretty sure everybody know what Sattva, Tamas and Rajas is. We also discussed it when Atul showed you the Sankhya. But most of the time, usually by the time people do Sankhya, it's like they can't even digest Sankhya. Or if they write a paper, they just regurgitate all that knowledge and then they forget about it. But what I want to do is I want to take that Sankhya philosophy and the 3 gunas part of it and apply that in food. And those of you who are yoga teachers or who are serious yogis, you probably, you talk about Sattva, Tamas, Rajas in yoga teacher training, but how does it apply to food? How does it apply to our actions, to the kind of life we live, to the 4 kind of ayus? That's kind of what I will be taking you through in the next couple of weeks. So we already started the concept of Agni and Pran in AC 101. We just pretty much take it forward from here. And as far as Pran is concerned, we do a lot of focus on plant-based foods. Our focus is to let our students coach their clients towards a more plant-based diets. Now, please understand, Ayurveda doesn't say that only plant-based diet is good. But we say that because it is the most sattvic diet. So Ayurveda is saying wherever a person is, that is okay. But we are a Vedic college. We are not just Ayurvedic, we are Vedic. We follow a very traditional style. So our focus is always plant-based foods. And of course, we are not coming from a place of judgment. Anybody can eat whatever they want. But the focus is for healing, plant-based foods are the best. So we give you a lot of evidence. Just to have someone, the whole concept of I need my protein. I've seen thousands of people in the last 15 years. And if there was one discussion, and if I had a penny for every time someone said, but I need to have my protein like 3 times a day. And by protein, they mean, animal-based food. So why can't they just have an animal-based food for lunch and have a vegetarian, plant-based breakfast or dinner? That's been the problem. So our focus is going to be plant-based foods. If we could coach them, then our job is done. We will just quickly look at an Ayurvedic nutrition label. We will definitely get started. We won't be able to complete any of these presentations. And this is the main presentation for today. And you've already been introduced to the 6 rasas or the Shad rasas. And that's our pretty much a little bit of So, I mean, the way I teach is to think of it as an Indian thali, Indian plate. You go to an Indian restaurant, they give you a little bit of naan, they'll give you dal, they'll give you a little bit of yogurt and a couple of curries. So that's my teaching, a little bit of everything. And then, we just keep on expanding that every single week. All right, there was some comment here. You cannot hear me. Can everybody hear me? Yes. Okay. Megan, can someone type to Megan to kind of restart? Or maybe her mute button's on. Okay. All right. I'm going to move on. So these are considerations if you've got, this is part of what I write in my book, Essential Guide. Every single amazing Ayurvedic Vaidya that I've met in my entire life, they are just amazing cooks. And you have to be a cook. I used to be in California. I've talked about that before. And I used to lease my own place. I used to rent a place. So for about 6 or 7 years. And then I came to Austin, and Austin kind of allows you to work from home a little bit. And plus the real estate prices are crazy. So I kind of decided, okay, I'm going to start my practice at home because I'm still building up my clientele as an Ayurvedic practitioner. And one of the things that I love about working from home is people will sign up for a 1-hour consultation. And then I say, use this herb, use a little bit of ajwain, use a little bit of fenugreek methi, use a little bit of anardana or dried pomegranate seeds. And they're looking at me like, what are you talking about? What is that? So I can quickly show them a saute in the kitchen, like within 2 minutes. And I pretty much, if someone signed up for 90 minutes, 60 minutes goes on for 75 minutes, 90 minutes go on for 2 hours, I pretty much end up with a little cooking demonstration for every, and that is what, they just love it. And they all want to come at noontime because they say, Carrie came to my house. I will usually, being a kapha, not let anybody leave without, eating something. It's also good. It's a good idea to be, when we say good cook, we are not talking about being a chef, but having knowledge of Ayurvedic definition of a good cook is what is good for the doshas, what is good in the seasons. And it's simple food. It doesn't have to be fancy, schmancy. We are what we eat. So just understanding very instinctively that we are actually what we digest. And like I mentioned in the beginning, it's not just, there's no such thing as an Ayurvedic diet because it's very inclusive. If someone is, cannot give up eating red meat, then we kind of work around that. But that's not a Vedic diet. Vedic diet is coming from the Vedas. So Ayurveda itself comes from the Vedas. So, Vedic diet is always plant-based. Because when you talk about plant-based diet, it's for healing the soul, the mind, the karma, and connecting us deeply to our mother nature. So, all we're saying is if someone is not well, if there is so much research, if you've read the China study, and a lot more research than that, there's scientific research. There's a scientific basis of vegetarianism by William Harris, who's a physician. All these studies out there. There's a WHO study that came out just last year. Twitter went crazy that, animal-based diet, specifically pork, and leads to colon cancers and so on. And of course, Twitter went crazy. All the vegan people went crazy. But we are looking at it from the point of ahimsa or non-violence as well. We are saying we just favor. So this is going to be one of the both in AC 102 and 107, which is nutrition, and 107 is going to be, we start creating recipes for people who are unwell, someone who's having a baby, someone who's just had a surgery. What is the pathya that we're going to give them? The pathya is the diet that you're going to give them, the do's and the don'ts in the diet. So what we're going to cook for them. So we're coming from that place. Also, we'll talk about intention and mood, and this is something that Atul will do because he's going to talk about the actual recipes. And my focus from a clinical perspective is, in this particular AC 102 course, the module, you have learned that Jataragni is in 3 states. It is either Mandagni or Tikshnagni, or it is Vishamagni. So it's either variable or sharp or slow. How are we going to balance that with 6 rasas? And energetics, I'm not going to get into, don't want to confuse you. And the 3 gunas of the mind, finally. So let's put all these gunas in perspective. So before we do that, I have a little questionnaire that I would like you to do. I'm giving you about a quick 1 minute. If you could do that, it's right here. I'm going to give you a good 60 seconds. There's just 3 questions. Oh, I think that's everybody who has done it. Okay, that's quite fantastic. We have 56% people who are vegetarian or vegan, and then 22% are partly. Almost 90% people know what Bhagavad Gita is, and 90% of you have studied something about nutrition either in your high school or college. So that's fantastic. That actually makes my life easy. Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. So I want you to think about when this was your 2nd class or 3rd class, and suddenly Atul came in and he just inundated you with the creation of universe, which just doesn't matter what school you're in. When we start talking about Sankhya, students are like, they have this glazed expression on this face. And if you're face to face with a person, I call it deer in the headlamp. So you're pretending I'm understanding, but you're really not. So anyway, so let's try to connect the dots today and see what is happening. So basically, I started the class saying that let's pray to Annapurna, who is the Mother Nature. So she's an aspect of Mother Nature. Now she has 3 Shaktis. Shakti means female aspect, female power. So power of God is called Shakti. So the 3 gunas are considered like a divine power of a goddess. It's like a divine thing, right? That is one thing. They're called Sattva, Tamas, Rajas. Sometimes, Sanskrit being what it is, we will say Sattvic, Tamasic, Rajasic. Sometimes we Indians being as it is, because we need to complicate everything, right? We will say Sattva, Tama, Raja. Or Sattva, Tama, Rajo. So Sattva, Tamas, Rajas, Sattva, Tama, Rajas, Sattvic, Tamasic, Rajasic all mean the same thing. Because Indian have to complicate. So let's go back. Basically, these gunas are everywhere. So let's look at just this passage. What did we learn in Sakya? So universe got created by this Mahat, which had the male and female in it, right? There was creation in universe, Mahat came, and then the universal ego came, Ahankar. From this Ahankar came out the 3 gunas. And these, think of it as an ingredient that is present in space, present in the universe, present in outside Earth where all the 9 planets are. So it's not just permeating planet Earth, it's also permeating every single planet, because it's creation of universe, not creation of Earth. So whatever being lives in whatever planet, we are all influenced by these 3 energies, these 3 Shaktis, and these 3 gunas. So when we are born, because we are born, and then think of it as just like, just to give you one example, one of the Shaktis in the Vedic literature is gravity. Gravity is science, right? We learn about gravitational science. It pulls us down, and there's a whole branch of science study, with gravitation. Similar, and gravitation is everywhere, right? Moon doesn't have a different, every planet has a different gravity. Similarly, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, you can't see it, you can't feel it, but just like gravity is present, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas are present. Just to give you one example, or it's possible it's just me and nobody else feels it. Have you ever been to Las Vegas? And if you go to Las Vegas, if you go down the strip, there is so much Rajas and Tamas. It's called the Sin City. You almost feel that, because there's greed there. People want to go there and they want to make money. So you feel that combination of rajas and tamas in the atmosphere. So it's everywhere, right? So obviously when a child is born, it's not only inheriting physical traits of prakriti and vikriti, it's also inheriting traits based on what the mom was eating when she was pregnant with the fetus. When it's a fetus, whatever mom is thinking or doing is making the mindset of the baby because of the presence of these three gunas. So these three gunas are permeating all matter, both living or non-living. All right. So what are we doing today? We are just interested in what they are. What do they mean for us? So what is sattva? Sattva, sattvic is, you know what? This is because we are from an ashram, and in ashram they will use the word purity, and sometimes it kind of implies that you're better than. It's almost like a Christian thing, but that's not what it is. Sattva is really a mode of balance or being peaceful, of equanimity. Think of when you feel calm and happy. I mean, like end of a yoga class, you're just relaxed and you don't want to go anywhere. You're just breathing, you're in the moment. And this guna is essential just for maintenance, physical, mental. It is literally pure goodness. And just to give you an example, you know how just around Christmas time or holiday season, even around Thanksgiving time, everybody wants to volunteer and do good, and they'll do charity. So sattva's in the air. And that's my favorite time of the year, because that's the one time you feel the sattva in the air. So, I mean, I grew up in India. Of course, Christmas is not big there. I move here and I'm like, what is the big deal? But I love that, you feel it in the air. It is this, construction helping its harmony with yourself, with the nature. And sattva is needed, just to be in the moment. Rajas is the mode of passion. Think of rajas as movement, attachment, desire. What are my goals? I want to reach at the top of my career and make this much money. And of course that's needed. If you don't do that, it is ambition, it is creation, it is movement, passion, having an idea and making it happen. This is why when I say, if you go to NYC, you go to Manhattan, or you go to Los Angeles, you go to Hollywood or downtown, it does not stop moving. It's crazy. It just, dum, that's too much rajas. But you need a little bit of rajas. Without that, things won't happen. So it is present in our atmosphere, in our city where we live, but it's also present in us. I don't know if you're a city girl or city boy and you ever go to like a village, or you will see the pace of life changes. So rajas also represents the pace of life. You know how the pace of life is like, I mean, I'm from Delhi. I went down to Bangalore once, and we went down to a village, and the people were so slow, it was driving me crazy, pit the mind. But then I kind of realized, I want to inculcate that, pace where you're not in a hurry. And that's a gift. So it took some time. So it's a mode of passion. And again, it's needed. Without that, we won't be able to do anything. Even in our day-to-day life, how we are moving as soon as we get up in the morning. Think of early morning time. As soon as you get up, let's say you got up at 5 or 6 a.m. It's quiet, nobody's up yet. You could feel the sattva in the air. And then all the cars are out, everybody's moving, everybody's out. Think that's the rajas time. And from 3 p.m. onwards, you start winding down. And in the evening, it's the tamas time. It's time of being quiet, it's sleep, apathy, laziness. You want to be lazy in the evening, you want to wind down. It is also anger, destruction, chaos. So it's in the day, it's in the time, it's also in us. We are all, think of sattva, rajas, and tamas as three robes, three shaktis of Mother Nature that are controlling every action from our subconscious. So, our subconscious brain is actually more active than our conscious brain. So our subconscious brain is controlled by sattva, rajas, tamas, and this is constantly in a change depending on which city you live, how you breathe, what you eat. So you cannot say, I am a Sattva, I am a Tamas, I'm a Rajas. You can't say that because we are always a combination of these three with one. Pure Sattva is God, literally. Nobody is pure Sattva. Nobody is pure Tamas because that would be the devil. So we are always a combination of these three, and these three are needed. There's no judgment. Problems happen, disease happen when there's too much Tamas and Rajas. What has that got to do with Ayurveda? Let's discover. All right. So what is the connection with food? Everything we eat, see, ingest, do, is influenced by these three, right? So what has this got to do with food and the doshas? So when you're eating raw food or cold food or wrong food combinations for a long time, if you do it like for 1 day or even 2 days, and you're a young person, your body can take care of itself. When it happens for a longer time, in my age, I can go, I can be bad for maybe 2 days. After third day, I can't take it anymore. But yeah, when you're younger, you can go on overeating, eating too much onions or garlic or spicy. In Texas, they're all into that barbecue sauces. It's so pungent, and I don't even know how to describe them. I've never had it, but I smell them. Or eating really late at night. What will happen? All of these things will increase vata. And vata is air and space, and rajas is movement. So the vata tendencies increases rajas in the mind. Does that make sense? When air and space increase in the body, it also increases in the mind. So rajas in the mind, so a person will have immediately inability to fall asleep. They will have a very disturbed sleep because they're just going on and on and on and on and on and on day and night. So just to give you one example, I just love that example. There was this awesome physician. I think she's also from Kerala Ayurveda. Maybe Carrie, you know her. Dr. Tripti. She's written a book. So we were at the Nama conference and she was giving her example how she discovered Ayurveda. She said, I think she was a resident, and medical residents kind of have a crazy life, 12-hour shifts, and she would come back and she would go for her yoga class or whatever. She was just running, and she just couldn't sleep. And so her entire 2-hour presentation was about her vata increase and rajasa increase. I thought that was very interesting. I think she has, she's a neurologist, and she started this using Botox for headaches. So, and she's an Ayurvedic practitioner, so you should look her up. Her name's Dr. Tripti something. I'm not sure of the second name, but I'll look it up for you. So I found it very interesting that she's sharing her story. So right off the bat, if the problem of the mind is cannot sleep, cannot wind down, and 9 times out of 10, you will notice if a person is very rajasic and they're vata person and their prakriti is vata, and their agni is going to be vishamagni. They're going to have Robin. I don't know if Robin is here, but you know how she was connecting the dots in vata person is going to have mostly vishamagni, or pitta person will have tikshna agni. Yeah, you're here. So I hope you're so the effect of food is not just on the agni, not just on the prakriti, but also on the mind. And I do not expect you to understand this today in this class. Absolutely not. It's going to take time. It's going to sink in. I just want to give you something to chew over. Think of it as a little chewing gum. Chew on it and chew on it and chew on it and keep on chewing on it. And I want you to disturb me. I want you to text me and WhatsApp me and message me and say, what? I don't get it. Ask me. That's what I'm here for. That's how I do it. I want you to chew on it. Okay, so when what Rajasa happens, when mind is I am unable to wind down. So this will increase vata and vata will increase rajasa. Does it make sense? Movement in the mind will increase air and space in the body. Air and space in the body will increase movement in the mind. So mind is going here and there. And so 80% of mental disorders are associated with vata. Actually, it's just 80, not 80%. I got excited there for a while. It's 80 and that's 40 pitta. and 20 kapha. So 80 disorders of the mind. So whatever phobia, any phobia, whatever phobia a person can have, from epilepsy to anxiety to seizures to anything to do with, neuro issues, vata issues, it's all combination of vata and rajasa. It is not just calling it vata is not enough, because there is a rajasa element. You have to cool down the mind. So just to give you an example, if a person has lost a lot of weight, like I've had these people who have had, like I have one client right now, and I mean I've got her permission to talk about her, and she works with another Ayurvedic doctor back in the Bay Area, and she was like 80 pounds. She lost so much weight, so he asked her to have an animal-based diet for a little while. And she did. And that time it was important for her to gain weight because this was like a life-threatening issues. Unfortunately, because of the animal-based product, the rajas increased. Now that she is, she has more normal weight now. Now the focus is trying to get her rajasic mind, her mind which cannot, her sleep issues are all related with this. All I want you to understand is, in mind, also vata will increase rajas. That is why the yoga you want to do for vata is not just to calm the body, bring the vata down, but also calm the mind by breath work, by pranayam. I've written kapha here. I should have put pitta in the middle. Let's go to pitta first. When a person is overindulging in animal-based food, specifically if it's not organically, if they were not fed, for example, if it's not a grass-fed cow, specifically with the kind of animal-based products, either they are processed, don't even get me started on the processed. I mean, every single piece of meat is processed. They put so many chemicals in it. And I don't know if you noticed in the last, I don't know, I actually go to the FDA website and read what's happening, but I'm a little nuts. But there have been all these flare-ups of E. coli and recall of all these meat products. And it's always happening. If you go and look, 10 times in a year, especially in cold meats, this happens. So there's an issue with pathogens, and grass-fed meat or organic is, of course, better. When someone is doing that for a long, long, long time, and nobody's saying it's bad, it's overdoing it is bad. But if they have cancer, or if they have a really bad digestion where their body cannot process that, then it's bad. But if they overindulge in it, it leads to passion and anger and too much sexual energy. And you know what happens when a person has too much sexual energy and they're discharging sexual fluids? It gets rid of their ojas, because ojas is made up of reproductive fluids. Reproductive fluids get transformed into ojas. There's two types of ojas. We go in that later. And then eventually it can lead to unhealthy sexual behavior. We are not saying if you eat meat, that'll happen. This is overindulgence more. Not 1 time a day, but 3 times a day. I'm going to give you one example. This has nothing to do with it. Years ago, I had this beautiful, gorgeous Kundalini teacher who was my student and dear friend. And she had this beautiful husband who worked in a steakhouse. And he was a kapha. So at home, he got to eat a beautiful vegan diet, and she's a chef and she'd bake stuff. And at work, he got to eat steak every single day. And then he started bleeding from his rectum. And then they came to me. I'm like, I'm not going to help you because you're eating red meat. I mean, God knows, because who knows what they're putting in the red meat. Maybe they're giving it too much hormones because it has hormones inside it, right? And he said, no, I will. So he promised me he will go off the steakhouse. So they lived in LA. So we look, and LA has so many vegan, vegetarian restaurants. So we went on Yelp and we found out things that were near his steakhouse that could give him a food. And he promised to follow my diet and take the herbs for, I think we gave Ashoka and some Stambhana herbs for maybe, he said 4 weeks. And, and then he had a lot more issues going on, kapha issues, tamas. He just didn't want to get up in the morning. She had to literally kick him out. He didn't want to drive because he had so much. And he had this kapha and pitta tendencies going on at the same time. So 4 weeks later, she called and said, well, he's lost 10 pounds and he's still vegetarian. And then she called me again after 3 months and he said, he's lost 30 pounds and he's now vegan. And then by the time she had graduated, then a year later she called, he's still vegan and now he's working for a vegan company. He completely is, everything changed. I just love that example. I was not expecting that, honestly. The idea is that he was eating that kind of food every single day for 1 year, every single meal, because it was free. Does it make sense? It wasn't like he had this taste for eating it. It's also very expensive to eat these things. So he had a lot of pitta issues going on, including bleeding from different orifices of the body, which we call rakta pitta. Rakta pitta is like a nosebleed or vaginal bleeding when, or a woman who's having her period for like 20 days in a row, or having a quick, any kind of bleeding from any kind of orifice in the body is usually called rakta pitta, which I'm not going to get into right now. But 40 pitta diseases, 20 kapha, and 80 vata. So it's not, and how are they? This air and spaces. So combination of vata, pitta, kapha in the body, rajas, tamas, and a combination of tamas, rajas. And we always want to go to sattva. And it may not make sense now, but it will later. I promise you that. Any questions, chat? Oh yeah. Mad cow disease. That just, yeah, there's just so much. Hang on a second, let's clear the drawing. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna ask you a question. There's a lady, her name's Jane Doe. I'm not telling you how old she is. Let's say she's 32, okay? She's feeling lazy. She's holding on to the memories of her job. Oh my God, I got fired. She's isolated, she's alone. She hasn't bathed in 3 days, but she changed her clothes. So she's watching reruns of her favorite shows on Netflix for days. She's sleeping for 10 to 12 hours. She ordered in some portobello mushrooms and French fries for 3 people, and that's the only real food she's had in 48 hours. Yeah, no, I'm not describing myself. She's been eating sweets as well. What dosha and what guna is prominent? I just thought, because I'm talking all this philosophy, I'll give you a little comic relief. Awesome. Does everybody agree with Stephanie and Megan? Yeah? Can you tell me what food is tamasic here? What is the food that she's eating that is tamasic? Fries. Yeah, because they're oily. That'll increase kapha, that'll increase tamas. Soup. What about portobello mushrooms? I love that stuff, by the way. Yeah, why do you think mushrooms? What is up with the mushrooms? Anything that grows in the dark will increase tamas. Nightshades, yes, will increase tamas. For example, if kapha like me or Lauren, if I don't know if Lauren is there or Olivia is there, kaphas like us, Carrie, you're a kapha too, right? Kaphas like us want to stay away from these things, especially for kaphas out of balance, especially if you're tamasic, if you feel like kapha will increase, tamas will increase if you're eating certain foods. But for a vata person who's going on and on and on and they can't stop, I want to give tamasic foods to them, just kind of a little bit, just to get them to some heavy foods. So French fry is not bad one time for a vata person, but for kapha person, yes. Yeah. All right, let's look at this. So fungus, all kind of edible mushroom, anything that grows in dark places is situated in mode of darkness. So what about processed cheese? You know how they take cheese and they process it, or like blue cheese? Would that be tamasic as well? Yes, no, maybe? Awesome. You got it. So what is sattva gun? is mostly situated in sattva or pure foods that are considered in mode of goodness or purity. If you've read the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 17 talks about the three gunas, and Atul is going to go deeper into that later. Basically, anything that increases sattva is naturally sweet, even fruits like organic, fresh, sweet fruits and sweet vegetables. Sweet vegetables would be yam or carrots or um, parsnips or sweet vegetables. Sweet fruit would be watermelon. All sweetness will increase that sattva. And it has to be organic and local and cooked with love. There's like pumpkins. Now, sometimes in a couple of books I've read, pumpkin is considered tamasic, but no. If you read Vedic literature, if you actually read Vedas, pumpkin can be offered to God in a havan, in a ceremony. So pumpkins are considered very sattvic, and we have proof. Of course, ghee, not sheep's ghee, not only cow's ghee. Remember, cow's ghee is slightly yellow in color. Okay. So we already talked about vata. So what is it that if a person has a lot of, cannot wind down, is having sleep issues, anxiety, and a lot of vata in the body? Naturally sweet, naturally sour or tart, and naturally salty. Sweet we've already covered. Naturally tart would, just an example here, pretty much anything that is citrus. And one thing, do you think yogurt is sour? Yes or no? Yes. Store-bought yogurt is considered very tart, very sour. So great for vata, not good for pitta person. So what kind of yogurt for pitta person? Fresh, homemade. So if you go to Macy's, you can buy a ready-made yogurt maker. Atul used to, in summer, we make our own yogurt every single day. Fresh, homemade, sweet yogurt. Because if something is lying in the store, even though it doesn't taste tart, it is lying in the store for a long time. Buttermilk is definitely tart as well. But if I were to give it to pitta person, then I would add some pitta pacifying things in the buttermilk because it's too tart or too sour for the pitta person. Okay. Naturally salty would be mineral water, seaweed, and sea salt. Yeah. So pitta is a combination of, it can just, so I want you to understand the difference between rajas in a pitta person and rajas in a vata person. When rajas or this movement happens in a pitta person, think of it as air increasing fire in body and mind. What does this mean? So if you have if you ever started a fire in a fireplace, if you have a fireplace, or if you look at a candle and you slightly blow on it, when you're bellowing on the, when you're blowing on the flame, it changes, right? If the wind is blowing slightly, it starts going kind of swaying a little bit. So think of the rajas is also movement, right? So think of the movement in the brain accompanied by heat. What will happen? So a person is thinking, and just going on and on and on, and it's not winding down, and there is heat as well. The person is going to get angry and critical, short-tempered. Does it make sense? So when a vata person has rajas, they just want to go for a walk, or they just want to clean the house. They just want to go on like an agitated molecule. Think of like an agitated molecule it's just like jumping off the, bouncing off the walls. But when a pitta person has rajas, it's because it's heat accompanied by air. So they will work themselves up, there's a difference between that rajas in a pitta person and rajas. And sometimes a pitta person can also have tamas, where, they're feeling lazy, but they're also angry and critical and short-tempered and combination. So it's slightly different manifestation of these two gunas in a pitta rather than in a vata. And what increases it? Chilies, hot spices, and basically kapha imbalance increases tamasa or tamasic qualities. Pitta increases rajasic. Vata increases tamasic. This is rajasic, and it can also be it's a different rajasic. It's a combination of tamas, rajas, and it has more qualities of fire in it. And that is where I'm going to leave the sattva, tamas, rajas, and I'm going to go to my second presentation. Okay. Any questions before we move on? Any questions before we move on? Is it clear? Are you clear that there is three gunas? It's sattva, tamas, rajas. Sattva is considered balanced, and we are all a combination of sattva, tamas, rajas, and we always want to move towards sattva. So when we are making a diet plan, we also want to consider the mind as well as the body. Does it make sense? All right, then I can go on. Yeah, should I move on, or do you want a minute break? Should I move on? Okay. All right, let's do that. Okay. Oops. All right. So let's kind of go a little bit deeper into Western nutrition versus Ayurvedic nutrition. I already shared this slide with you. It has talks a lot about macro and micronutrients. You're not going to get tested on it. It's just for your information. And the reason I want you to know that is that, if someone comes and say, well, I went to the doctor and, he recommended calciferols and you don't know what that is, or you don't know what vitamin D is, then, they're not going to trust you. So just knowing what these things are is a good idea. All right. So we're going to look, and the reason, like I said, this is outside the scope of the course. We're kind of going a little bit into biochemistry, and the reason I want you to know this is because people will come with, these are the supplements that we are taking. Oh, I am taking CLA, conjugated linoleic acid, and I'm taking astragalus, and I'm taking, I was told to have more protein, and I'm taking omega-3 fatty acids. You don't know what that is, you're in trouble. Because you don't know what that is, and you call yourself a counselor? So no, that's not going to work. So even though it's something for your information, so, those slides, just kind of go through it so you know what that is. And I'm pretty sure you've all studied it. As far as we are concerned, we are mostly interested in the Pancha Mahabhutic composition of food, what Mahabhutas, the 6 rasas, and we are very much interested in Prana. Let's study the differences between these two. And let me tell you, I've had feedback from students. This is some of the coaching points that you can use when you're maybe teaching Ayurveda, because you will end up teaching Ayurveda. Everybody does, because you'd start teaching it to you. Really, the job that you're in, the job description of Ayurveda counselor is to counsel someone about Ayurveda. How do you counsel? You start by education. And I'm sure if it's not happening yet, it's now Thanksgiving, it's going to be Christmas, there's going to be all these holiday parties. And people say, oh, what are you studying? I'm studying Ayurveda. What is Ayurveda? And then you'll be explaining yourself to your friends, to your circle. If you're already doing that, you know what I'm talking about. So it's a good idea to know this. So of course, allopathic medicine and nutrition, they're going to look at everything in its separate. They will make everything down to one cell, and then they separate it. Even massage is done like that. Everything is done into its separate parts. And that it's not like that, it's wrong. It's just a different modality. It's looking at the content of energy. It's looking at fats. It's looking at proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, and minerals. And these are, and which is true, these are the chemical building blocks of life, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely correct. That is science. And Western nutrition doesn't care whether your body itself is making it, or you're taking it from outside, or it's coming from animal-based foods, or it's coming from canned food or tinned food or processed food, as long as you get it, right? That's why, like in milk, do you know why they add vitamin D in milk? Basically, the law requires legally for people who sell dairy to pasteurize the milk, to heat the milk to kill pathogens. And when they heat it so much, it kills off some of the nutrition content. Because they've killed off the nutrition content, then they add extra nutrition to it. And they add vitamin D because there's a lot of people who have the deficiency, and there's deficiency like rickets that can be caused. And it's, of course, your body can make it if you go out in the sunlight, but what if you don't live in the sunlight? That is the thing. So it is very important mineral. So, you need that. Ayurveda is not concerned with different parts of the food. So if you remember, the very first forum discussion we had was what kind of supplements that you use. And there's Western supplements and there's Ayurvedic supplements. Sometimes you'll find an Ayurvedic supplement which also has vitamins and minerals in it. So if you look at, there's a Maharishi Ayurveda has a couple of supplements. Also, Dr. Deepak Chopra's website has a couple of supplements, for example, for women, which have, it might have vitamin D in it. Also, it might have, but it's coming from the whole food. I don't know if that makes sense. It's a whole vitamin. It's not broken down or isolated. Does that make sense? It's the whole food. So you're not isolating retinol or vitamin A from the milk, and then after isolating it, then you're selling it. You're saying eat the whole milk. Does it make sense? So it's the whole food, because body will do its whatever synthesis the body needs, the body will do that. Doesn't take into account the agni of the person, their dosha, their prakriti, their dhatus, their shotamshi, their nothing. Their age, what is the power of the digestion, nothing. We take all of that into account. It doesn't matter where it comes from. What is the pran? It's not even on the, what pran? You can just, sometimes Atul talks about in 50s, 60s when he was growing up, there was just that invention of refrigerator and microwave, and they were having TV dinners, which were disgusting because, it was a new thing. And there were all these ads on the TV about these microwaves stuff. We are concerned with prana. We are concerned with how much vitality the food has, meaning it has to be local and fresh and organic, and it has to be live. How will we have life if you're eating dead food? If it is canned or processed or fortified and it's been on the, it's like a food-like substance, which is something that has pran, which is life, is going to decompose. If it is not going to decompose, it doesn't have pran in it. So processing and chemically synthesizing doesn't matter where you get. In Ayurveda, processing of whole foods to retain pran and also the micronutrients. So it does not believe in extracted synthetic forms. Just to give you an example, turmeric is one of the most popular Ayurvedic supplements in the market today. And turmeric, the best way to get turmeric is you get turmeric from the store, and you put it in, so you heat up some ghee or olive oil or whatever oil you're using. When it heats up, add a pinch of turmeric to it. In the oil, turmeric will release the heat and the oil. It's fat soluble. So it'll release curcuma. That will increase the absorption of turmeric, because turmeric has some of the worst absorption rate in the universe. So if you have like turmeric in water, half of it just goes through your body. It doesn't stick. But if it is, taken with fat or ghee, it is going to stick. Or it's taken with aloe vera gel, it sticks. So they're extracting the curcuma from the turmeric and selling the curcuma. So that is not what we believe in. That doesn't make sense. So there's nothing wrong in targeting a specific deficiency. For example, someone comes to you, and I keep on saying that to all my students, don't forget, if someone is coming for fatigue, ask them if they're anemic. Have you been to your physician? Have you been tested for, have you had your CBC done? Are you anemic? Is that okay? Have you, you always want to talk, because if someone has some specific deficiency, maybe iron deficiency or even oxygen deficiency, they're going to have fatigue. So you want to rule that out before saying we can help you Ayurvedically, because Ayurveda will tell the same thing, take iron. Except Ayurveda will say take iron in a liquid form that is easily absorbed by the body, because iron will make your stools hard. You also want to say, why do you want to take, have you noticed, you guys, did you notice every time you take iron, they ask you to take vitamin C? Vitamin C is citrus, it's vata. It helps, right? So usually you don't, for prenatal, they'll always tell you that take the iron separately from the rest, because iron will make, so best iron to have from Ayurvedic perspective is iron in foods, red foods like pomegranates, for dates, figs, and so on and so forth. Blackstrap molasses, it's like a liquid iron. But even if they're going to have like an iron pill, Ayurvedic iron pill will always, if Ayurveda has an iron pill, which we do, which I'm not going to get into, is given with Triphala. So it's called loha or iron, and it is basically boiled and cooked in Triphala, so it's easily digested. It's also targeting a specific deficiency, but we want it to come from whole foods. Does it make sense? And we will say, oh, cook your food in iron pot. So, it's a completely different way of looking. It's a completely different way of looking at it. Any questions? Yeah, it will. It is. It doesn't suit everybody. I had a friend of mine who's now a friend, who used to be my client. Then she joined the college and she became a practitioner. Now she's a friend. The whole time she was coming to me as a client, she just couldn't take iron. It would just drive her nuts, and she was anemic. And we just put her on a diet where she was eating a lot of beets. She made beet halwa and beets with ghee and beet juice, and she took supplements with beets and figs and dates and molasses, and she was fine. Yeah. Take it from the food. And to take a lot of Triphala with it. Let's not forget that. Yeah, this was the part I was talking about, that it's outside the scope of the course, but just for information purposes, you're not even tested on it. We will talk a little bit more about this when we do AC 107, because there we actually start talking about lipids, and we start talking about, we do a little bit pathology. We tell you about the lipid profile. Dr. Aparna talks about, maybe Carrie, you're going to be doing that in the future, who knows. Just telling, what kind of tests we are looking at. So this is just for information purpose. Please go through it. Maybe you already know this. Same thing. These are minerals. These are in trace amounts. Okay. This is for next class. This is again next class. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to talk about processing. I mentioned, in the Western world, processing food has nothing to do with nutrition. We believe that processing in Western diet kills pran. Pran is what gives us life. Without pran, everything is, you're eating dead body, right? What is the use of eating a dead body of like a lentil soup, which has been in a can for 3 years or 1 year or 12 months? There is no pran in it. It's a dead body of the lentil. But lentil as a seed, you can have lentil seeds in your pantry for 8 months. It still has pran, because seeds retain prana. But when you cook it, it must be consumed, within 24 hours or even, so it's losing its prana every day. Think of just like coffee, you know, coffee beans. Compare fresh coffee, the smell of fresh coffee, to you know, ready-made coffee in something it's been for a long time. So how long canned food sits on shelves? And then chemicals are added. My God, if I had to see sodium benzoate again, go to Indian store. I don't know what it is about the Indian food. It's a preservative, and body can get rid of these chemical, but every single product they will put sodium benzoate. I found this organic tortilla today. I got so excited because I was busy. I didn't have time to cook. Of course, it had, you know, sodium benzoate. All these preservatives are added. Why? Because they don't want, by the time the food reaches the store, you know, it's going to go bad and it needs to sit on the shelf. So, you know, they need to increase its shelf life. It's, you know, how would you? So unless you're making fresh. And then, of course, I don't know about they do. Sometimes they will refry the food in restaurants. Did you know that? And if you've ever seen like a restaurant movie, sometimes in restaurants, the way they're cooking, they're moving so fast, it's so rajasic. Imagine how much the food in restaurants is imbued with that rajasic energy. And I don't know who is there from California, but there's this, you know, Austin, there's Casa de Luz, which is like kind of people who are preparing the food. They just do it so beautifully. And in California, I think it's called Native Foods. It's a beautiful restaurant. It's done by a chef. I mean, the people who cook there are just like so chilled out. It's beautiful. So you can taste the sattva in the food, which is, you can't say that about anyone else. So let's go and look at the summary. The basic idea in Western nutrition is one size fits all. Eating guidelines are vague. For example, you know, they've given you 25, FDA has this, you need 2,500 calories or 2,000 calories, Ayurveda doesn't care about calories, right? We are not, I mean, think of ghee. Where is the calories there? And everything, you know, is calories, macro and micronutrients. And it doesn't matter how many preservatives you put in. They don't even care if it's organic or how it was grown. Or, I mean, back in the 70s, they had, you know, DDT, and they actually had these chemicals that can cause birth defects that were being sprayed on the plants. Of course, many of them are illegal now. In India, they still do it. And of course, in places like Punjab in India, the amount of, you know, if you look at there was like 1% cancer in 1960. In 2017, it's 90% in one place in Punjab. They use so much the conventional farming, where they're using all these pesticides that were banned here in the US. So, you know, it just, what to do? We just live in this world where we are just pretty much raping the environment. And then, of course, that leads to climate change, and Mother Nature is not happy. Very quickly, I'm going to get started. I'm running out of time. We already know this. Samadosha, samadhatu, samagani, samamala. How many times? I think every single class. This is Sutra 15 from Sushuddha Samhita. Sutra 15. You should know this. Samadosha, samadhatu, samagnischa, mala kriyaha. Know this. We are what we eat. You can eat anything, but we are also what we digest. What goes in the body can be beneficial or harmful. We already did this part, so I'm just going to go through this. We just did this. Hang on, let me get to the point where, okay, yeah. Let's talk about prana. So life energy, life force, vitality of the food is prana. So let me ask you, how do you know? Let's say I give you 2 oranges and 2 apples and 2 bananas and 2 carrots. How would you know which one has more prana? How do you know that? That's nice. How about in Ayurveda, everything is use your senses. So when somebody walks in, we are going to use our eyes to look at them. We're going to use our ears to hear the breathing. We're going to smell their ama by smelling them. We are like we are like Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson. Someone walks in, we should be able to say this person went to that store and did this. You totally have to be Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson here. So how do you know you've been given these different vegetables, which one has more prana? Very nice, Megan. That's awesome. Vibrant colors. What else? We are using our senses. That's a hint. What sense are we using? So we are looking at it. It has very vibrant. Yes, you could smell it. So I don't know if have you ever, my son, my elder son, we've always bought organic strawberries, and it's kind of easy to get them in California anyway, but here, it's a little harder here in Austin. And of course, we moved last year. And so a couple of years ago, we went to the store, we couldn't find any organic, and he really just wanted to have strawberries. So I just bought regular strawberries. And he literally just puked them out and said, Mom, that tastes like nothing. It has no smell. It's terrible color. Because he had never had a conventional strawberry before. I just laughed so hard. I said, this is so ridiculous. Yes, it is ripe and it can be mushy. Yes. And it looks, I don't know, I can't even explain it. You can smell it, you can use your sense of touch. You touch it, it feels full of prana. Just to give you one example, I had this client a couple of years ago, and she had IBS. So she had irritable bowel syndrome. And of course, that is, they have discovered now it's more a psychological disorder from stress. And of course, it has to do with completely with the enteric nervous system and psychology. And she came in and this is what she said to me: I hate food. I hate food. I hate food. I swear. That's what the first thing she said to me. I'm like, okay. Do you know what I told her? I told her, so she never went shopping. She had not been in a grocery store for a year because everything she ate, she just went and, she pooped it out. So she hated food. Everything went. She was going to the bathroom unless she was taking drugs. Even with drugs, she was pretty much anything that went in her went out. So she went from 140 pounds to 90 pounds. So she came to me 90 pounds and she said, I hate food. It just goes out. I hate food. I said, well, if you hate food, the food hates you too. Because if you hate someone, it's like you're directing some energy to it. It's going to direct it right back. But I'm not going to eat anything you give. So I pretty much gave her like a Chyawanprash jam. Every 1 hour she was to eat it. And she hadn't had an appetite in a year, of course. So I sent her to Whole Foods with her husband, which was walking distance. I said, this is your homework. I won't even charge you for today. You're going to go to Whole Foods to the produce section because everything's organic. It's just so beautiful. I want you to touch. I want you to smell. And I just want you to look. But please don't hate it. And you are to eat this jam that I'm giving you every hour for like 5 or 6 hours. And then 4 days later, it was like 11 p.m. at night, I get a call. It was her husband. She's like, she really wants to talk to you. And she's like, Monica, I'm so hungry. I want to go eat that food. I'm so hungry. I'm like, oh yeah, go and, go eat some food. So, he cooked her a soup and then they went back to Whole Foods. So the thing was she needed to fall in love with those vibrant colors and smell and touch. That's what we're talking about. Does it make sense? I know. She did feel well. When people stop coming to me from Ayurvedic perspective, like in Western medicine, you want people to come back, right? Because it's a business model. In Ayurveda, they stop coming to you. Usually it's because they're feeling better. So that's a good thing. But, it goes on. So we are looking at if something is prana, it has vibrant color, smell, right? All of this. All right. Let's go back to my screen. So why am I talking about that? So we are not looking at the nutritional value. We are looking at fresh fruits. We are looking at vegetables, legumes, grains, and cooked fresh and local. Like I said, anything which is lentils or anything seed-based or lentils or grains, when they have not been ground into a powder, whole grains, freshly milled. Let's put it this way. In India, we have this thing about we get all our grains freshly milled. So you have fresh mills that you can go. I even bought my own mill some years ago and I was using it. And then, of course, I had a baby 3 years ago, and that all went down the drain. But it was awesome. You know, when you have grains and you freshly mill them, it's, oh my God, it's so tasty. You already know what is high in pran. Let's look at foods that have little or no pran. Processed foods. We talked about all the chemical additives. Frozen foods. So if you had a choice between eating conventional food and frozen food, I would rather you have conventional fresh food than organic frozen food. Because it's always a choice, right? Because a conventional food will have all these, added chemicals, but it also has prana. But frozen food has no prana, even if it's organic. But if you had a choice between conventional frozen food and organic frozen food, then choose organic. It's like we got to choose, whatever life is presenting us with, we got to choose the best option. Because people who can afford Whole Foods, well, I can afford it a little bit better now with Amazon having bought it. But who can really afford having all only organic? Nobody can. Nobody has the money. And plus, people come to you to give them practical suggestions, right? Canned foods. Now, interestingly enough, I have a client who, because of his work, he cannot stop canned food. So I went and researched and found certain, because canned foods are lined with BPA and all these chemicals that are leaching into their food. And so I found some organic prepackaged foods for him that were in a carton, like a cardboard carton kind of thing, which was better than nothing, because he just couldn't eat fresh food because of a situation. So it's interesting the things you have to do for your clients. And any conventionally grown foods, if there's a choice between canned and conventional but fresh, always fresh. If there's a choice between organic and local, always local. Best on the top of the pyramid is organic and local. GMO, throw them out of the window, because most of the GMOs, the pran is, it is such a skewed thing. It's not, GMO does not have pran. Fruit and vegetables grown really, really, really far away. Leftovers, and in Bhagavad Gita, it talks about within, 24 hours. But, when a lot of these books were written, there was no fridge. I get it. But energetically, even if it tastes good, it starts losing its prana after 24 hours. So you and I, sometimes it's okay to have leftovers. And one of the suggestions that I give my clients, if they're having leftovers, I ask them to invest in herbs. So get fresh curry leaves and fresh, chives and fresh basil, and chop some fresh basil and herbs on your leftovers. So you're at least getting some herbs with pran in it. Does that make sense? And how many of us have left something in the fridge and it becomes a science experiment? I've done that. Clean your fridge every single week, and ask your clients to do that too. And I say that to myself because being a kapha, I want to save everything. I don't want anything to go to waste. And it, of course, drives everybody in my family crazy. But yeah, it's a habit. You got to clean your fridge, right? I'm not going to go into ojas. It's a completely different. But I do, before I end the class, want to show you something. Okay. So we all know what a nutrition label looks like, right? Regularly, we know the regular nutrition label. Can everybody see this? I'll answer your question in a minute. So this is one of the homeworks that I give you. It's just a fun homework. Yeah, you don't have to do it if you don't want to, but it's a fun homework. You make a little poster of an Ayurvedic nutrition or Ayurvedic label, just a little poster thing, just a fun thing. And, make your own, put it in Instagram or something. So this was done by one of the students. See, there is no calories. It talks about balances. What dosha? XXX aggravates this dosha. Where was it organically grown? City, state, country. Pran level. Someone did this 5 on a scale of 10. Ojas, 8 on scale of 10. I'm not going to go in. Guna is not the 3 gunas, either the 20 gunas, 10 opposing qualities. Oily, dry, heavy, light, soft, rough. Remember, what is the guna? Rasa. What are the 6 tastes? I am not going to go into Virya Vipak right now. Protein source, is it plant or animal based? Are you seeing how different this is from an regular nutrition label? So hopefully this kind of brings together how in Ayurvedic nutrition we are looking at dosha, and we are looking at, there's so many levels from which, I mean, I want to leave you with this. That one of my clients who was really, really sick, and she had a double mastectomy, and she had chemo and everything. She's really, really sick. And she came to me, and we put her on a mostly a plant-based diet. I mean, she was kind of like a lacto-ovo vegetarian. Milk and eggs were okay, and the rest, because she did need her strength, and a lot of plant-based diet. And then she felt so good. And she came and she said, just cried, she cried. She said, I just wish someone had told me not to eat that. She said, it's not like I'm in love with red meat or anything. It's more like a habit. She just cried. And, she just said, just like, I never would have had to go through all of these things. Obviously, it doesn't suit me. So, this was coming from her intelligence. Our clients know, and we are not trying to change them. We're trying to educate them. And we are never coming from a moral high ground. We are always coming from, holding hands, coach. Unless it's a kapha person, then there's no holding hands, because they're so stubborn, they're not going to listen to you. You got to kind of kick them a little bit, force them to get going. Okay. I don't listen to my own advice, so I have to ask Dr. Priyanka many times or Dr. Aparna. So that's where I want to leave you today. Hope that was a good class. And let me answer any questions if there are any. Let's see. All right. What do you recommend to clients who take lunch to work as far as nutrition's go? What do they recommend they bring? So there are 2 things here. Let me just put the video on since we're just talking. Okay. So there are 2 things. If they can have breakfast or dinner which is full of prana or Ayurvedic, that's fantastic. Then even if the lunch is not that fantastic, that's okay. If they can take, if you, I mean, I've done things like I go and look, where do you work? Is there a vegetarian restaurant nearby? Is there a vegan place nearby? Can they, can they order, instead of having, can they get a tortilla wrap with, with vegetables and cooked food and soup instead of having, a raw salad? Can they just take some rice, brown rice and beans to lunch, in a lunch box? It completely depends on the, whatever person you're dealing with. So there's so many suggestions. And usually when I get a lot of nurses, and I don't know, is Mandy here? Mandy or Laura, I don't know if they're here. Or even I remember when Dr. Aparna was doing the program with us, but she only works part-time now. In professions where they have to work 12 hours, they don't really have time for a big break. Just taking like a thermos or drinking teas all day, and you just kind of have to work with what you have and adding little things to it. So hope that answers your question, Robin. All right. Can you explain why more GMOs are low in prawn? Because it's when Mother Nature, so Mother Nature is who? Mother Earth is a Shakti of Bhagavan Vishnu. So Earth is one of the wives of Lord Vishnu. And Pran is nothing but energy of Lord Vishnu himself. It's a godly energy. When we go and try to change anything, and this is not just me saying, if you go and read the Vedic literature, I'm not talking about Ayurvedic literature, Vedic literature, anything that is skewed and changed, it will affect prana, it will affect tejas, and it will affect ojas. Hope that answers your question. If sweet aggravates kapha, How do kapha increase sattvic foods? Excellent question. Love it. So you do not, if you have a kapha person, so let me show it to you on a whiteboard. It'll be easier for me to show it on a whiteboard. When you have a kapha person, if they are situated in sattva already, you don't need to do anything. Does it make sense? They're already balanced. But if you have a kapha, when kapha goes out of balance, they usually will become tamas, right? Tamasic. So you give them a little bit more bland foods. So how has this, or they will become like a combination of tamas and rajas. They're kind of feeling heavy. They don't want to get off the sofa. We gave example of the Jane Doe who was, ordering in and watching reruns on Netflix. We've all done that. Doesn't mean it's the imbalance. It's a tamasic imbalance. It's a temporary thing, right? When we're all doing it. If you want to, or a kapha doesn't want to exercise, they just do feel lazy. I just don't feel like getting up. So we want to get them moving. You never make a kapha go from tamas to sattva. You always want to take them to rajas. You want to introduce movement to dispel tamas, and you want to introduce more bland food, like bland soup, because kaphas love too much sugar or too much sour or too much spices, like bland khichdi and so on, like bland soups with just tridoshic spices. And you kind of move them to like that state. You move them from tamas to rajas, and then you move them from rajas to sattva slowly. And of course, I do not expect you to understand this in 1 hour of class. As we go through this again and again and again and again and again and again, this will start to become clear. Okay, another question. Just let me get, what do you recommend to clients who are always traveling to work and not in their own kitchen? So like I said, the best example I can give you is we had a student who just did like a 50-hour or 150-hour program with us when we used to have this 150-hour program back in California when we were San Diego College of Ayurveda. She was a pilot. So it was her job to travel. So she was flying planes and she was in Southwest Airlines. And so Southwest Airlines flies in the Southwest area. So usually her flights were 2.5, 3 hours one way and then 2.5, 3 hours the other way. So 4 times a week she was on the plane traveling. And if she was not on the plane, sometimes she had to stay over. So she was always doing that. Luckily, one of the places that she traveled from was San Francisco Airport, which is one of the most awesome airports in the world because they have all these places that have soups and vegan stuff and vegetables and whatnot. So we went and made a list of all the foods that she could get from the airport that would balance her. We had her traveling with a little rice cooker, like a small, the stuff they sell usually in August and September before kids are going off to college, all these little rice cooker, little pot cooker, and so on and so that. So the students don't really have a kitchen. So that we recommended those things, carrying thermos, making your own like a churnam powder that you could put in all the foods, making sure that she was always taking herbs and so on. So, you cannot change everything, but you try to work with what you have. Hopefully that answers your question. Anything else? Wow. Yeah. I guess you guys really like this class, huh? That's a lot of questions. No, bring it on. Bring it on. I love it. All right. Let's see. Okay. So now that you have done your Agni assessment in this AC 102, if you haven't logged into AC 102, please do. The class and these PowerPoint slides will be posted in AC 102, not AC 101. All right. And then on Sunday, Atul is going to finish his stuff that he's going to do, and he's also going to pick something else up. And I'm going to try and talk more about Ayurvedic nutrition. Wow, I'm so happy you guys are all, psyched up. Now you need to wind down, take a breath. Thank you, Dr. Cooper, for joining us. Hope you enjoyed. That's how we roll. Yeah. I'll talk to you tomorrow, Carrie, then. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.